And that's one thing people don't understand, that the role of an artist is to inspire, is to challenge, is to teach. That's the role of an artist. One of the things that unfortunately our country don't understand very well is how crucial culture is. My interest of dance actually started in the streets of Alexander. When there were weddings, parties, me, I used to jive. But one thing I know for sure is that nekisna rhythm. With traditional dance, yeah, you scream. When you feel it, you just be you. You just do you, you know, and nobody holds you.
In a world where Africans have lost their roots, it has become of vital importance to document our ways. In an effort to reverse the brainwashing of the past, where we were made to believe our ways are demonic, we are pressed to create dignified and respectful platforms to unpack our spiritual ways. Umoya Ulight, Umoya Upright. Welcome to another episode of MOYA, where we break down African spirituality, culture, our history, where we try to link the past with the future so that our children can know who they are and where they come from. And today it's such a privilege. I've got one of my mothers in the industry, NOMSA MANAKA, who's a trained ballet classical dancer initially, but she's going to give us her journey and tell us her journey as an artist in the struggle and her role and her family and Mom NOMSA, thank you so much for agreeing.
Thank you for having me here. I always see people, I'm like, oh, kande na.
I know, right? I know, it's lovely.
But it's been so beautiful. I'm loving what I'm seeing. And I love it. You're doing so well. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to take you right back, Mom. Because I know you've said you've given your story lots of times, but we're living in an era now where it's information age and people work through the internet. So the youth will only get to know you when they see you online. And, you know, so we would love for you to now give us NOMSA MANAKA. Well, actually, it was Goopy.
Goopy, yes.
Right?
You see, you know me.
Yes. So where did you grow up? How many siblings? All that stuff.
I was born in Alexandra Township. I'm the firstborn from both families, paternal and maternal. And 1970, we were moved to, during the forced removals, we were moved to Diepkloof.
There were forced removals in Alex?
Yes. Yes, and we were moved to Diepkloof. And in Diepkloof, well, my interest of dance actually started in the streets of Alexander. When there were weddings, parties, me, I used to jive. But one thing I know for sure is that nekisna rhythm. Rhythm was not there, but I just loved it, you know? And I got to Diepkloof. I was still the only one. Spoiled. And then my brother was born 1972, Prince. So, it was just me and him, right? And then growing up, I went to a Catholic school, Roma, in Diepkloof, and I think I've always been a person who really wants to move. And for me, Roma was not moving. There wasn't anything, you know? The only thing I could be for Roma was to be a brownie. And I wanted more out of that. And I told my parents some story, you know, about this, going to this school, and I moved. And my parents, you know, agreed. And I went to the Tawana in Orlando. So I did my primary in Orlando, in my high school, Orlando High. But during this process, I fell in love with ballet. And I mean, as I say, my training started in the streets. and I did again ballroom and Latin. But I saw ballet. I saw these kids, these white kids, because there were no black kids then who were doing ballet.
Yes.
They had their hair pulled back. They were so clean, they were so neat, they were so beautiful, they were so angelic. Actually, that's the word, they were so angelic. They were angels. And I was like, wow, I want to be that. You know, and I used to tell my mother, like, we used to call my mother B. It's like, B, that's what I want. And then they would show traditional dance. It was so savage how they showed it. These people, they were maniacs. They danced like they were crazy. And I was like, I don't want to be that. I don't want that. And I was so clear. And I kept to that. And I remember some people would say, Mara, why you must learn setso sa gago? You today, your traditional. And I was like, what are they talking about? Me. Traditional dance. Those people are crazy. They're dirty. They paint their faces. There's nothing classy about traditional dance, you know. And my mother Shem worked so hard, got me into these studios where they used to took me back doors, you know, where I'd go in back doors to dance, because then black kids were not allowed in these places of dance, you know. So people like Adele Blanc, Audrey something, I forgot her name, big ballet teacher, what's her name again? Debbie Racuse and Sylvia Glasser. You know, I take my hat off to them because they allowed us to be a part of what they were teaching, right? And I used to go there, but the thing about it is, our bodies are not built like the Europeans, right? They're not built like that. So I remember when Sipos Pamela started FUBA, Federated Union of Black Artists. It was in Newtown. And that's where a lot of us went. And this woman was teaching, used to teach us there, used to teach us ballet. And she'd come to me and say, pull up tall. What is this? Pull up tall. Look at your bums are sticking out. And at that time, I'm so skinny, I'm so thin, I'm not eating, you know, because I needed to be a certain type. I needed to be that. And this man would be like, And that created so much insecurities in me. I became so insecure that I knew I loved to dance, but I am not a good dancer. But my mom always said, NOMSA, it's okay. Just, you love this thing, right? Just go for it. She used to really encourage me, but I don't know. I began to dislike ballet and contemporary dance because of how I was treated, right? Anyway, I grew up, but I still was attending, and I met this beautiful man who later became my husband, and he didn't like ballet. He was he hated ballet, but anyway, he
set up the story nicely for us, Mom. That's why we called you. Set it up. Okay. So you're doing ballet. How old are you?
I'm doing ballet.
How did you meet him?
I started doing ballet when I was about 12.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about 12, 13. I was 13. And then I used to go, when FUBA opened up, so it was easy for us, you know, to attend without going back door, without going to Hillbrow, because the classes were at Hillbrow then, you know. when it was still very beautiful. And so I attended FUBA for the best part of 5 years, doing classes at FUBA, you know. But obviously, because I was so discouraged. As I say that, the teacher was a white teacher, you know, wanting to create her own narrative of dance, not what Siposi Pamela, Benji Francis wanted them to do, you know. And as I say, I think I was about 16, yeah, and I met this man.
Does he have a name?
I met this man. I met Matsemela, whom I had read so much, whom I had loved without knowing. He inspired me, you know, but I'd never met him, just read about him. He came from Diepkloof.
So he was like a famous writer?
He was a famous writer,
okay.
And he had these beautiful plays. And I wanted to be an actress, and I wanted to feature in his plays. But obviously, my parents wouldn't even allow me to do that. I was like way too young for that. And I met MATSEMELA. So I used to be very active again. There's this organization called Cripples Care. I loved to, what is the word? What is the word again? Where you just give your time?
Oh, charity work.
I like charity work, that's it. So charity work for me started very early. So I joined Cripples Care. So in Cripples Care, what we'd do is that would be those kids would go into the streets, raise money, give them Cripples Care to buy stuff for people with disability. Now I know. You know, since my son had disabilities, now I know they're called people with disabilities, not cripples. But then anyway, it was called Cripples Care. And Matsemela was the chairperson of the organization, and I didn't know. And I joined it through a friend, Zandile, who said, let's do this. I was like, yeah, let's go do it. And when we joined, he was abroad. He had gone with his play, Egoli. And when he came back, I was like, my idol. I just loved him so much. And and I think when I was 17, we started dating.
He's like an older man, obviously, if he's a chairperson.
Yeah, the age difference between us is 9.
Okay.
Right? It's 9.
So how does it develop? Because you were quite young and you're at the office space. So how does it develop then?
No, what would happen is that we'd go there during our school holidays. So during school holidays, we'd be very busy with Cripples Care, you know? So they didn't have an office. So they used to have this at random places. But when I saw him, I was like, oh, wow, you know? And then he began to know what we're doing, and then he realized, he asked me, so what do you do? So I was like, no, I'm a dancer, and this, and I've seen your plays, you know, I've read about you, and I'd like to perform in your plays, you know? And I think he listened, and I think we just both fell in love, you know? I think we both fell in love, so it's the Beyonce and the Jay-Z story, because I hear people saying, yeah, Jay-Z, this, Beyonce. It's like, please, come on, rest, you know. So
we were here before.
We were here before, man. I don't like Jay-Z, man.
We are the
really Beyonce.
So you guys became like Jay-Z and Beyonce in the industry.
Yeah, and through him, actually, I was very lucky. I got a scholarship to study dance, to do ballet in the US with the Dance Theatre of Harlem. You know, how, I don't know, but yeah, Matsemela was Matsemela. Matsemela was very connected and connected me with other people, you know. And yeah, and I got the scholarship to go study dance. And I got to the US. I was very happy. I was going to do ballet. And my whole perception of dance changed. when I got to America. I remember during the school holidays, I was supposed to have been there for 3 years, but I was there for, I think, 6 months. 6 months or less, somewhere there. So I met these girls. They came from Atlanta. So during the school holidays, it was like 10 days holidays, and they said, listen, we're going home. Would you like to come with us, you know? And I mean, I was a rarity there because I was a South African. I was an African, you know? So everybody wanted a piece of me, right? And Nelson Mandela again. So it was so beautiful. And apartheid. So I got to the Atlanta Arts Exchange. That's where we went. And I found people doing traditional dance. And it was West African dance. And people are like, you know what, we've never seen South African dance, and can you please show us your South African dance, please? I was like, no, I don't know. And people thought I was a real snob because I was like, no, I don't know. I don't know traditional dance. And they were like, are you not from South Africa? I was like, yes, I'm from South Africa. Is South Africa not in Africa? I'm like, yes, it's in Africa. So, please teach us. I was like, I don't know. All I can do is to pirouette and take my legs 90 degrees, you know? and I remember I went back to Harlem, and I realized that really had an impact in me. There was now a shift. I was like, I want to go back home. And then I started learning traditional dance in America, you know, because they had a lot of studios, you know, everywhere you can find traditional dance. And I started learning the traditional dances. And I found I really like this thing, you know. Then for me it was this thing. So I was like, I think I like this. And I remember calling Matsemela saying, guess what? I said, yeah. I was like, I met some people who are doing traditional dance and this. I was like, really? And I was like, but I don't think I want to be here. I want to come back home. And I could tell he was very excited. And he's like, listen, if you want to come back home and you think you want to study traditional dance, South African dances, that's fine. Come back home. I was like, yeah, no, I'm coming back home. And I think the people who sponsored me, I think they were not so very happy, though I got to learn about this later. So I think they were on Matsemela's case, because that's when you realize that I think I was like a pawn. They were using me, you know?
Fetish, so.
Exactly. And now, but I came back home. And again, through Matsemela, I met a man called Rashitanga. And Rashaka took us, myself and Matsemela, to Venda. You know, took us around. And he introduced me into Domba. He took me to the Domba school, the initiation dance for girls. And I was left there for about a week. And that's where I learned traditional South African dance. So it was like I initiated myself into South African dance with Domba, you know? So that's why I used to go mad when I see, because you know how things are commercialized in this country. You see boys doing Domba, and they call it a snake dance. You know, aesthetically it looks so nice, you know, and they think they can. Just like, no, this is not a dance for boys. This is a dance. It's an initiation dance for girls. So, oh my God, I used to fight. And yeah, and I came back home from Venda, came back home, and then I started getting really serious, learning our traditional dances. From Venda, we went to Limpopo. I learned Kiba. I learned how the Bedi women dance, how the Bedi women play the drum. I went to Umtata to learn isiXhosa. I started traveling around learning. I was eating traditional dance every day, and I started learning the food, eating the traditional food. I never used to eat umngushu. Yeah, I never used to eat that. No, I never used to eat bopapa. Never used to eat all the traditional food. No, I used to eat. I'll tell you what I used to eat: grilled chicken. Green salad, potato salad was too much starch. So those were the kind of food I used to eat, right? and me learning who I was. I learned everything. I learned the dances. I learned the costumes. I learned the food. You see, and
I want to understand how, for a young person, because now the politics must have been at a heightened pace in that time.
Yes.
And I'm hearing you almost distance yourself from the black culture, which must have been part of how you were socialized.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. So, MATSEMELA was the one that helped me. In short, he's the one that really, really opened my eyes. I didn't care about politics. I mean, the fact that I wanted to do ballet, it says a lot.
Yes.
It says a lot, you know? And my dream was to study in white schools. So in Orlando, my primary, so we used to wear brown tunics with yellow t-shirts. So there was a school somewhere in town that had similar uniform. So when I came to town to my mother, I used to be so happy because everybody thought I studied at that school.
Yes.
You know, so everybody would be like, I mean, you'd see literally heads turn that, how? Oh, they take black kids in that school, you know? And even how I spoke, you know? Because I do ballet, so you have to speak English and you have to speak it in a certain way. So even when people speak to me, so I used to be very posh. So I used to be, politics, who cares about politics, really, you know? I mean, I'm looking at my kids at that age, the things they were talking about, I always think, I never used to. And I think it has to do with upbringing, you know? Yeah. My parents, the only thing they wanted was for us to go to school. You know, they shielded us from everything. They didn't want us to know about the political situation of the country. I mean, we'd pick up here and there, and then when you ask, why must I go back door? Why must I not come front door, you know, to come and dance? And then they'll find a very nice way of explaining it, you know? So one got shielded from all of these things, right? It's only when later on, when I really started understanding the situation in this country, or actually, wow, there's a lot more to this than one think, you know? Being with MATSEMELA opened my eyes. I mean, as I say, MATSEMELA was exposed. And then again, the thing that also happened with him, he shielded me as well, you see? He protected me from all of these things. I mean, look, I got a scholarship. How did I get a scholarship? I don't know. So everything was on a platter for me, right? And it's only when you get to America and then you hear all of these politics, when oh, you're from South Africa, so how did you get here? Oh, I was just not interested. I was like, these people, Bambora, I don't want to hear these things. So it was that kind of a thing, right? And, but, I mean, you grow up. As I say, when I started finding myself, after I initiated myself into South African dance, I began to understand who I was, where I come from. You see, I began to appreciate my culture, and I began to realize how strong and powerful my culture is. And that's why they didn't want me to learn it. You know, they didn't want me to know about it. And I stayed with it, and I stayed with it until up to now, until up to today. You know, that with traditional dance, it gives you a sense of freedom. I mean, look at me in my age. I still can dance. I still can express myself. What else with ballet? Ballet has no longevity. You know, by the time you're 20-something, you have bunions, you have hip replacements, I mean, really and honestly, the body doesn't want you to overextend it the way we normally do. You know, the way ballet does.
Yes.
And when you dance, you're not in touch with your soul. You're not in touch with yourself when you do ballet.
You're on your toes.
You're on your toes. That's why I think they're always so angry, because they always go, you know, everything is, and with traditional dance, you scream. When you feel it, you just be you. You just do you, you know, and nobody holds you. And I don't know if you've seen when they perform on stage, one of the things that happened, I remember, Dance Out of Harlem came to perform at the Joburg Theatre. And I was there, it was packed, and they were performing. It was so beautiful. I mean, a lot of people were surprised to see black people doing that, you know, because they were not used to seeing, like there's this girl, I forgot her name, who was doing Giselle, and she was flying on stage, and she was doing all of these things that white people do. And a lot of people, black people, were so taken aback. But they were sitting there, I'm like, And I could see others were falling asleep. And then they have a dance called Dougla. Dougla is a traditional dance from, I don't know from where. And when they did Dougla, I saw everybody standing up and sitting upright and applauding and smiling. And you could see it touched a nerve. It touched somewhere, you know, and that's who we are. We are a whole being. We are spiritual people. We have a soul. That's why for me, dance is a prayer, you know, and through dance, I have, look, I've gone through adversities in my life, but through dance, it helped me overcome those adversities. And even today, I sing my praises. It's a dance to say, I am what I am. All those adversities I've been through, if it was somebody else, I think they would have lost their senses. They would, yeah. I mean, when my son, a wall fell on him, the only brother I had, Prince, as I said before, when we started, it was just the two of us, died in a car accident with his wife. And then lose my mother after that, get diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. So it's a whole lot of things, right? And I'm still here, standing. And I give my praises to dance. Every day I say thank you. I say thank you. Because I can wake up, I sit there when I'm sick, I say, dance. And that's what pushes me.
People won't believe that. I think you're 65, ne?
No. Now I'm going for 60. I'm 50. I'm turning 60 next. In January, I'm 60.
You look 37 or something. It's incredible.
Thank you. Look, my best friend was what? Same age as MATSEMELA. So you see, I like hanging around.
The older people.
The older people. Sibongile was what? Yeah. 8 years. Yeah, we had an 8-year difference.
Let's actually go into that because those are the artists that come from Funda Center. And Funda Center is quite a iconic institution, black institution, especially for artists in the struggle. Do you want to break down for the youth, Guti, what did Funda Center represent? Who was there?
Sibongile actually was at FUBA. Sibongile was a teacher, music teacher at FUBA, very strict. Never used to like her. When I used to be, I used to look at this woman with big glasses, like, don't like this woman. Anyway, 1984, Funda Center Funda was built for teachers to come and improve themselves.
Okay.
That's what Funda was all about. And it had state-of-the-art science lab, state-of-the-art, bless you.
Thank you.
Library. You know, it had a state-of-the-art of everything.
Okay.
And Matsemela, his friend Mutsumi, they were like, but there are no arts. Where are the arts? And they fought for this, and through the help of Eskia Mphahlele,
Yes.
helped them. Then they gave them some tiny little building in the corner. I think that building, I think they were going to use it for storage. And they said, because these people are just too much on us, you know? Let's just give them that building to shut them up. And it's amazing what that little building did for Funda Center. That Funda Center became known worldwide because of that little building called Art Center. So then what used to happen at the Art Center, we used to have, so it was different organizations, right? So we had theater, we had dance, which we were responsible with MATSEMELA. It was called Soyikwa. And then we had, on the other side, we had Madimba, Institute of African Music.
Okay.
It was run by Mutsumi. And then we had photography. And then we had AIA, African Institute of Art, you know, where they used to paint visuals. And then we had, we had music, photography, we had theater in that little space, right? And MATSEMELA used to teach theater, Mutsumi used to teach music, I used to do dance, and then they called Sibongile to come to Funda as the coordinator, you know? And she came to Funda, and she was our coordinator. And those three just became a powerhouse, you know, and made sure that the syllabus that is taught at Funda, first, you have to know who you are first. Everybody that comes from Funda, I don't care who you are, the ones that I still meet even today, they still say, thank you, NOMSA. Thank you, NOMSA. I can hold my own because of Funda. And I mean, the stories they used to tell, the music that came out of there, the visual arts, everything that came out, it was just not art for art's sake, but there was something out of there, you know. With me, with my students, I taught them ballet, you know, because I think it's important as a dancer, you must learn all of them,
yes,
right? It's important. But we specialized in traditional dance. Even today, I still meet those kids. And during the dance classes at Funda, it was not to create professional dancers, but through arts, it was to help those to be responsible in whatever they want to do, to help them, you know, in what they want to do. Because most people that learn dance, that learn theater, that learn music, not all of them became all of that.
Yes.
You know, some of them are doctors, some of them are, they're different.
Wow, so it was like therapy.
It was like therapy. It was like therapy. I mean, I remember 1980, 86, 87, when kids were not going to school, when it was kids used to find solace at Funda.
Yeah.
That's where they grew up, because that's where they used to be safe, you know. And the beauty about it is that the parents were also very involved, you know, in their children's education. They would come to Funda. When we have performances, Funda would be packed by parents.
Do you know that, I'm sorry to cut you off, Mom. I have memories from very small, it's those ones that you, when you're very, very small, of you doing dance workshops for us and us running across Funda Center.
Yes.
I remember my mother used to...
With your mom.
Yes.
With your mom, yeah. And we used to like sitting there at the corner and your mom, be like, these women, your mom, Smongile. I mean, the three of us, when we would sit there and talk, your mother was such an amazing, amazing woman. You know, yeah, you're taking me back. Yeah, so.
What is the importance of, because this is where we're at right now, the importance of artists in, like you were saying, therapy and the struggle? I mean, because a lot of the time the art is thought of as just this, you know.
When you fail in your profession, you can become an artist.
Exactly.
You know, how or by an artist. And that's one thing people don't understand, that the role of an artist is to inspire, is to challenge, is to teach. That's the role of an artist. One of the things that unfortunately our country don't understand very well is how crucial culture is, how crucial the arts are, you know. The arts, whether we like it or not, liberated this country. We liberated this country. And it saddens me when you see people think, when you have failed in your profession, you can be an artist. And you see a person says, why is man NOMSA MANAKA heshwa dancer? It's and I'm thinking, and you think, so what makes you think if he fails morely, she or he will do better here, you know? And that's how much you see people just are so disrespectful of artists, right? I mean, I remember when I got a scholarship to go and study dance, that's when people started taking me serious. You are going overseas. And then, I mean, you know, overseas was an E thing. You know, not everybody went overseas unless you go into exile. That's when people are like, so serious. Contemporary dancers were going to be paid 8,000, and then traditional dancers were going to be paid 500 rand. In my little corner, I cried. I was like, this is not worth it. It's not worth it. South Africa, it's half naked. They're wearing all these short things with panties, brown panties outside, and some, the breasts are hanging. I was so mad.
All right, guys, you've reached the end of part 1. To watch part 2, you have to be part of the MOYA community, which is paying less than 20 Rand a month. So not only do you subscribe, can you just press the join button there, put in your banking details, so that every month, you're paying your tithe. So those of us who are within, let's go to part 2.